Hey, it's Gothy here. I'm doing my January wrap-up and a hopefully to be read pile for February. So for January I read a total of 12 books, which not too bad. I probably could have read more, but I got really lazy at one point. I only have one of the books that I read because the 12 books I read were library books. This year my goal was to not buy so many books, but to just read a heap from my local library, because my local library has a really good selection, and they're pretty happy to buy new books as well, so new releases. That hasn't stopped me from buying books. I think my total of bought books for January is probably at about 25. I've just bought another 4, and I bought one yesterday. I bought one book yesterday. I ordered 2 books Thursday, and I bought 2 books as well that were just random ones that I thought, hey, they look interesting. But going off my Goodreads, which is here, the books that I've read for 2014 January, The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, which is now one of my favourite books. I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I've watched the movie as well now, and the movie was really good too. I read World War Z by Max Brooks. Book was amazing. Movie was the biggest piece of shit I've ever watched. I read The Amazing Spider-Man: The Gauntlet. Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan, which was really good. That was the first John Green book that I've ever read, and I am desperate to get a hold of his other books now. One of the books that I bought online is The Fault in Our Stars, because I watched the trailer for that, and the trailer made me cry. So I know the book is going to break my heart, but I need to read it because it's John Green. I'm already in love with him, and the idea, like being a disabled person myself, seeing disabled characters that don't have crazy superpowers to make up for their disability, seeing disabled characters that are actually real, like they're not, it's kind of hard to explain, and it kind of comes into the whole inspiration porn thing, but just to see disabled people being normal is a huge thing, because even though I'm only new to using a wheelchair, I've already had people come up and go, oh my god, do you know this person because she's also in a wheelchair? It's like, no. It doesn't work like that. Just stop. Thankfully, I haven't had anyone come up to me and be like, oh my god, you're such an inspiration because you're out doing the groceries in a wheelchair. Keep on going. Because I think I'd probably throw something at them, because I am not looking forward to that stage. Other things I read was The Curse of the Worgen graphic novel, and that's by Mickey Nielsen. I play World of Warcraft a lot, so I've been kind of going back and trying to get a hold of all the lore so I can reread things. Been pretty desperate to buy more of the books because I'm missing a few from my collection. So I wanted to read, because I play Horde. I don't like Alliance, but I do have a Worgen character because I think the kind of werewolf aspect was really cool. So I have a Worgen character, and I was curious about the kind of beginning of them. So I was surprised to see that they were actually Night Elf Druids that started the Worgen curse. So that was really interesting. I enjoyed that a lot. I read Above by Leah Bobet. I put a review up for it on Goodreads as well. It was really refreshing because most fantasy books have a female narrator. This one has a male main character and male narrator. And at first I thought, this looks good, like it looks like a fairy book, and I like fairies and the fae and, all different representations of them. but it wasn't actually anything to do with fairies. And I thought that was really surprising, and I really enjoyed it. I also read Ultimate X-Men Volume 1 by Nick Spencer, because I love the X-Men and I love my graphic novels. I read a lot of graphic novels this month. Batman and Robin Volume 4, Dark Knight vs. White Knight. I was never really into Batman. Like, I didn't mind the movies. The Tim Burton ones were my favourite until the Dark Knight series came along, but I still love them both equally. But one of the things that got me interested in reading the Batman comics was the fact that there are so many different interpretations of Batman. So I've been enjoying reading them because every writer has like a different idea for Batman and what he is. So I've been finding that really interesting. I've also read Batman Through the Looking Glass by Bruce Jones. Batman Arkham Unhinged Volume 1 by Paul Dini. And I also read the Volume 1 of the Game of Thrones graphic novel, and that was really good. I didn't mind it. I probably liked the intro by George R. R. Martin first, more than I liked the actual graphic novel part, because I just think he's a really good writer. I've been trying to read the Song of Fire and Ice series, but for some reason I've had a lot of trouble getting into the books. I don't know whether that's because I watched the TV series first, or if it's because of the length, or maybe it's just the style of writing that I'm not quite used to. But I actually own the first 6 books I think it is, because one's a double volume. But I'm hopefully going to get around to reading those this year. I would like to. But the one book that I finished yesterday, so just on the cut-off of January, was Horns by Joe Hill. A friend of mine recommended these to me, Horns and Heart-Shaped Box, and I do actually own my own copy, but at the time they were buried deep in the dark recesses of books on the single bookshelf that I had. Now they have a nice little home where they're visible, so I didn't really need to borrow these, but I got these copies from the library. I really like these covers, they're better than the ones I have. But I really enjoyed this. It was a really interesting concept. And the next book that I'm planning to read will be Heart-Shaped Box, also by Joe Hill, because I really liked this. As for my to-be-read pile, I spent the Australia Day long weekend at a friend's place, and I came home with a whole bag of books that they would like me to read. So hopefully I get around to those. Hopefully. But just from the library alone, this is not including books that I've bought and own, because there's a lot. To start with will be Batman Night of Owls by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Again, I've been reading a lot of Batman stuff. I'm really enjoying it, and Kevin Smith had Scott Snyder come in for the end of an episode of Comic Book Men. They were kind of talking about this a little bit. They didn't go into too much detail, so it got me intrigued. So now I'm going to read it and hopefully enjoy it. I also found the Max Brooks Recorded Attacks, which is like from World War Z, which it looks alright. I mean, I don't really read black and white comics too much, but I'm willing to give this a go because I've heard that this is pretty cool too. And one of the books I did get from my friend that I borrowed was the Zombie Survival Guide, also by Max Brooks. So I'm going to have a read of that and maybe be able to further sort out my zombie apocalypse plan, which is pretty much just go to Bunnings and board the fucker up and plant a heap of things because Bunnings has everything. So next is Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. So hoping it is as good, if not better, than Horns. Also, I'm really looking forward to Horns being a movie, because that will be amazing. The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodgkin. Again, this is something that I've seen a lot of people mention, and I've heard good things about it, so I figured, see if the library has it, and they did, so now it's mine. Tear You Apart by Megan Hart. I don't mind reading romance, erotica stuff. I grew up on Mills and Boon because that's what my mother is into. So when 50 Shades of Grey came out, I was a little curious. And then I read a few pages and I wanted to throw up because it was horrible. And as someone who knows a little bit about the BDSM fetish scene, it really pissed me off. As far as I'm concerned, it glorifies an abusive relationship. It's not a good representation of the fetish lifestyle at all. And then I found out it was Twilight fanfiction originally, and I just kind of sat there and gone, well, that explains why it's shit. Like, pure and simple, it is shit. And I have subsequently stopped reading a lot of romance stuff because there have been an abundance of these books since 50 Shades of Grey that have come out, and I can't help but think that they also glorify the whole abusive relationship kind of aspect. So I'm going to give this a try, and I hope to God it doesn't, because if it does, I'm just going to lose more faith in humanity. Next I have The Rumpelgeist by Fiona McIntosh. She's an Australian author, and I haven't really read anything from her. I own one of her books. I own Betrayal, but I haven't got around to reading it because most of the books on my bookshelf I haven't actually read, because every time I start to read the books I have on my bookshelf, I tend to move to a different area, and then there's a new system of libraries that have lots more books that I like to read, so I get distracted. And for... I'll do this one. Beautiful Creatures by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. I have book 2 and 4 from the series. I don't own 1 and 3 yet. So it'll either be I read this when I get around to it from the library, or I will buy it and read it in due time. I watched the movie, and the movie didn't really do it for me, so I have a policy of not to judge the book by the movie, which is a good thing, because otherwise I wouldn't have read World War Z, because that movie was shocking. And hopefully this lives up to what I think it will. Another book is the second book in the Rebel Angel series. I picked up the first one, Firebrand by Gillian Phillips, and it was really good. It was just a random kind of, hey, this looks interesting, I'll give it a go. So this book, I'm actually the first person to borrow this book from my library. They've only just got it in, so I'm pretty happy about that. It's very clean and neat. It's hardcover, so there won't be any spine damage or anything when I read it. And when I do read it, I'm probably going to read it in about a day, because the last book was really good and I couldn't put it down. This one's the second one. It's called Bloodstone. The first one was called Firebrand. The next book I've got is one that I've seen around and thought, yeah, I'll give it a go, and it's Teardrop by Lauren Kate. She's the author of the Fallen series, which I haven't actually read yet. I own the first 3 books. Well, either way, I own 3 of the books from the 5-book series. I haven't read them yet, but this is like a, I don't know whether this is going to be a series or not, but it's kind of a standalone. It's not tied to the other one, so I can just read it. And I also have An Abundance of Catherines by John Green. This one came in the other day into my library. So I forgot that I grabbed this one. Now, for one of the groups that I'm on in Goodreads, we're doing a dystopian fiction reading challenge kind of thing. So for that, I picked up Cinder from the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. That was in the dystopian list, so I don't actually know much about this, but I'll give it a go. But I've also got 1984 by George Orwell. Now, I started reading really young. I read my first Anne Rice novel when I was 9 years old, and I read this one not long after. But Because I was so young, I don't remember a lot of it, and I thought I would reread it for the Dystopia Challenge. So I borrowed it from the library. It's a really nice hardcover copy, and I might look into buying it myself, actually. This is a really clean copy too, so I think this might be a newer book. So that's my so far to be read pile from the library. I have another 7 books on reservation at the library, which will probably come in this month. And I've got a heap of books coming to me. I've got The Fault in Our Stars. I've got 2 Anne Rice books coming. Those are the ones that I ordered today, as well as another cross-stitch book. And a Henry Rollins book for my housemate, because he likes Henry Rollins, so it was $4. I have both Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Hollow City on order with my local bookstore. They're going to call me when it comes in. I'm going to put them on lay-by if I can't buy them outright. And I think that's all I have coming at the moment. No, wait, I have the first Jessica Verde book coming. Yes. Either way, I've bought a lot of books, and I should stop buying books, but I can't. And I mean, I don't know how much more reading I'm going to get done this month, because I go back to TAFE on Monday. So I'll have 3 days of full classes for the first couple weeks, and then I start work placement as well, so I'll be gone full-time 5 days a week. So part of me is kind of hoping my work placement will be somewhere where I need to get a train so I can sit and read on the train, but I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure they're going to try and find somewhere close to where I live for me because of the whole wheelchair thing. So I just see what happens there. Anyway, that's my January wrap-up and part of my February to be read, hopefully, list. I'll upload this, and in the next couple days I'm also going to upload a about me kind of video as well. Just because I keep saying I'm going to do one and I haven't done one yet, so I really should.